we'll see where we're at. We'll be in more of a kind of a suction zone over here. If we're not, if we can't do that and we stay red, you know, because we're gapping down a little bit here. If we stay red, you know, we'll have to play back down to, right, the previous day's, you know, the previous day's lows, which is 163.50, give or take. It's Friday, and frankly, the boogeyman's been out all for the last 2 weeks. You know, we've had some epic kind of weird Fridays. So, as always, you know, the boogeyman could be out today. We'll have to make sure to protect our risk. This is just a both ways market. You're getting red day, green day, red day, green day. So what happens is, like, say, you know, you get a big green day in the market. You're like, oh, fuck, right? My scans are hot. Like, there's all this stuff going on, right? And then the next, so you scan and you have all these longs, and then the market ends up rolling over, and then next thing you know, right, you're like back like, fuck, my whole watch list is longs because we just had this epic green day in the market, and then it rolls back over, and, you know, your whole watch list is just in shambles, right? So what we have to do is keep two types of watch lists, right? And understand the different levels in the market. If we gap down, could we go red to green? Sure, but we do have a couple levels of resistance overhead. If we don't, then we'll play this thing back down the downside. So that'll be just something to kind of be mindful of. On the earnings side of things, you know, this Sonos is gapping up today on earnings. You know, these up gappers have been really kind of 50-50 of late. But it is an IPO stock. IPO stocks tend to have some nice juice in the mornings. You know, at least for like the first, you know, 15, 30, 40 minutes, you know, you're seeing kind of spikes. Even when the gap up plays fail, you know, like Goose, you know, the opening rips, you're still getting big opening rips, you know, that you can play on a shorter time frame before they fail. So, you know, these things are still squeezing higher. So I'd keep the Sonos on this list. Obviously, NVIDIA's on the list too. This thing's getting smoked out on earnings. You're kind of basing out at 165. You know, if it kind of busts lower than 165, we may be able to take a short off the gate. My worry with this one is obviously it's a $100 billion company. It's already down 18%. Gut feeling is, you know, maybe after the first spike down, you're going to squeeze into the 9 EMA, and then, you know, you'll have to have a rollover on this one. That's the way this play has been going for a while, is like when you get too much of a big gap down in a big name stock. I've seen this with Netflix quite a few times. They start to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze forever, and then at some point they run into resistance intraday, and then they start to roll back over. So just be careful of it. Don't short anything into the hole too aggressively. We've got WSM today. WSM, so this one's breaking under the 200-day moving average. Also, this kind of big base over here. I think we'll get a good short out of this one also, potentially if the setup emerges. And then JWN, this is Nordstrom. So look, semiconductors get taken out, retail getting taken out. Where do you hide, right, in this market sometimes? You're breaking under the 200 and this flat top breakout over here. So you got multiple levels that are breaking down. You know, obviously if you're taking out big retail and tech, right, every tech stock has been just demolished, starting with Apple on earnings this last month, which is never a good sign, right? Because, you know, your tech is supposed to be the leader. So we'll keep an eye on this JWN too. My one worry with JWN and WSM is something, you know, retail stocks do this sometimes where they gap down and then they might sit around. Like you may get like a quick play at the open and then they just sit around a little bit. So, you know, that's going to be just the nature of the game. So I'll be watching WSM and JWN closely. If they're going to act too retail-y, man, retail stocks suck to trade sometimes. They really do. If they're going to act too retail-y, I'll take them off the list. They just don't move as good as tech stocks. You know, that's just the nature of the game. Man, PCG was the huge winner yesterday. I left a lot of money on the table on this. I mean, you can see it got smoked down to 17 yesterday. Yeah, it took out this trend line right off the bat, and then it broke yesterday's lows. You know, we shredded this thing. The chat room. I only took one trade yesterday. After I took this one, I covered the last of these down here and just took a quickie. But I should have kept trading because, frankly, this fucking thing gave bear flag. And then it broke down and it popped right back into resistance and dropped another buck. And I mean, you could have taken 3, 4 points, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points all day on this thing. Pun intended. And really nailed this thing down. Now it's squeezed 50%. I was hoping for a gap down today. Get this thing into the 10, 12, 13 range so we could try to long this bad boy. But, you know, frankly, they ruined that with probably some bullshit PR. One thing to remember is like the old breakdown started over here. You know, if it gets over 27, you know, you may squeeze a little bit, but I'm almost thinking if this thing gets jammed into the anywhere from 29 to 33, we'll probably be able to reshort this little pig. I have no interest in longing this thing, but we'll reshort this little piggy and see what's going down. But so far it's holding. So you never want to short anything into the hole while it's just squeezing. We don't know how many people shorted this thing, right? And dumped this thing. So they can squeeze for a little bit, but kind of just remember your levels and stuff. You know, this thing starts to get real jammed up. You get 27, 29. Ideally, man, if you got to in the 30s, we would get a wicked short on this thing. Usually what happens is when they have like some of these kind of BS kind of PRs come out, right, and this thing short squeezes higher, it'll squeeze all morning, and like everybody's like, oh man, this is good. And then next thing you know, you start to see it start fading at resistance levels, and then you'll start to see a rounding action, and then you can kind of redump. Now, it probably won't get back to 17, but right, you'll get a nice few points out of it and have a little fun with it. Dun, 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 dun. It's with everybody in this AMD. Now, I got AMD on the list too. AMD didn't have earnings today. It's just moving down on it's just moving down on the NVIDIA news. So we could play it in sympathy, but like it's still got a lot of supports underneath, so it might not be as fun. It is cheaper than NVIDIA, so that's why if you need a proxy on NVIDIA, you could play AMD, but you never know. Yeah, trade smart today. I'd still keep UNG on the watch list. You're starting to squeeze a little bit higher, but, you know, it only had this kind of one down day. We'll watch this thing for potential green to red on this one. I added this MAC to the short list, too, today. You know, this one got dusted yesterday on whatever news, but this one I lined actually pretty well. It's got a good enough range on it. And then to the upside, my main watch is really this Twilio. The range from top to bottom on this thing was $10, you know. $10 on something like that, it's going to have some good juice. If the market holds up, this thing could very well get back to the 90s. If the market doesn't, then, you know, this thing will probably get dusted off like everything else. So, short list, focus list, you know what we got to do. There ain't no surprises today, all right? Hey, Scott, what's up, baby? Hey, Timmy, what's up? What's going on at school? Yeah, I was actually thinking Roku probably, you know, it may tap back into this kind of 200 SMA, and then you'd see, like, kind of what's happening. But, yeah, overall, the bounce on Roku's been pretty light, right? You know, so at this point, you can kind of, it's been pretty light. So it could be some short covering kind of thing, right? It's just, it looks like a dead cat bounce. If it was like a real bottom, this thing would be kind of ripping. You know what I mean? So I would definitely, I'm leaning towards bear flag on Roku for sure. Oh, yeah. What else? What else? Yeah, put AMAT on the list too. I would keep all these semis on the list. NVIDIA, AMAT. You can put AMD, JWN. What was the other one? WSM? Good. Yeah, Marco, I keep AMAT on the list too because this one's actually pretty clean. You can see like you've got kind of like a bear flag over here and you're breaking down this trend line over here. Definitely put AMAT on the list too, brother. Oh, yeah, and don't forget Sono. All right, let's go do what we do, man. Let's go have a little fun. All right, let's go do what we do.